There will always be difficult people, people who provoke you, people who misunderstand you, people who criticize everything you do, people who speak without thinking, disrespect your boundaries, test your patience, or somehow manage to disturb your peace without even raising their voice. And perhaps the most exhausting part is this. Sometimes you cannot simply walk away from them. They may be your coworker, your relative, your neighbor, your partner, your friend, someone you must see again tomorrow. So what do? Do you fight back? Do you explain yourself until they understand? Do you try to change them? Or do you remain silent while resentment slowly grows inside you? The Stoics believed there was another way. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire filled with difficult personalities, politicians driven by ambition, generals with enormous egos, dishonest officials, critics, rivals, and people who constantly demanded something from him. And yet, instead of beginning his mornings expecting everyone to behave well, he prepared himself for the opposite. He reminded himself that he would encounter people who were meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and difficult. Think about that. He didn't wake up saying, "I hope nobody annoys me today." He woke up knowing someone probably would, and that preparation changed everything, because the Stoic does not demand that the world become peaceful before he becomes peaceful. He learns how to remain steady even when the world is not. So if someone difficult has been occupying your thoughts lately, listen carefully, because the goal is not to defeat them. The goal is to stop giving them control over you. Much of our frustration comes not from what people do, but from our expectation that they should have done something else. They should know better. They shouldn't speak to me like that. After everything I've done, they shouldn't treat me this way. Maybe you're right, but reality does not change simply because someone's behavior is unreasonable. A difficult person becomes twice as difficult when you constantly expect them to suddenly become reasonable. The Stoics understood this. If you know someone is arrogant, why are you surprised when arrogance appears? If someone constantly gossips, why are you shocked when they gossip about you? If someone has repeatedly shown that they cannot control their emotions, why do you expect perfect emotional maturity from them today? This doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. It means seeing people clearly, without illusion, without unnecessary expectation, without repeatedly handing your peace to the same behavior. Imagine walking outside during a storm and becoming angry because the rain is wet. You can curse the clouds, you can complain about the wind, but the storm will remain a storm. Wisdom says, I cannot control the weather, but I can decide how I move through it. Treat difficult personalities the same way. See them as they are. Then decide how you will respond. This is where Stoicism becomes powerful. Someone insults you. What belongs to them? Their words, their attitude, their intentions, their behavior. What belongs to you? Your judgment, your response, your character, your next action. Most people mix these two worlds together. They spend enormous amounts of energy trying to control what belongs to someone else. How can I make them respect me? How can I make them understand? How can I stop them from talking about me? How can I make them regret what they did? But the Stoic asks a different question. What is mine to control here? And suddenly the situation becomes simpler. You may not control whether someone respects you, but you control whether you abandon your self-respect trying to earn theirs. You may not control whether someone misunderstands you, but you control whether you exhaust yourself explaining your heart to someone committed to seeing you incorrectly. You may not control someone's anger, but you control whether their anger becomes yours. That is freedom. Not controlling everyone around you, controlling yourself. This may be the most important lesson. When someone is rude, the temptation is to become rude. When someone disrespects you, the temptation is to humiliate them. When someone lies about you, the temptation is to expose everything you know about them. When someone becomes cruel, part of you wants to show them that you can be crueler. But then ask yourself, what have you won? If another person's lack of character causes you to abandon your own, they have already defeated you. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself not to become like the people who offended him. That is difficult, because anger always gives you permission. They started it. They deserve it. I'm only giving them the same energy. But Stoicism asks something higher of you, not weakness, discipline. You do not refuse revenge because they deserve kindness. You refuse revenge because you deserve control over yourself. There is a difference. Your character should not depend on someone else's behavior. If they become dishonest, remain truthful. If they become petty, remain composed. If they gossip, don't join them. If they provoke you, don't become their entertainment. Let them reveal themselves. You reveal yourself too. And sometimes the strongest response is simply refusing to become what you dislike. Difficult people often rely on speed. They say something, you react immediately. They raise their voice, you raise yours. They accuse, you defend. They provoke, you explode. And before you realize it, you're participating in a conflict you never wanted. The Stoic creates space, a few seconds, a breath, a moment of silence. Not because you are afraid to answer, because you want your answer to belong to you. There is enormous power in not reacting immediately. Someone says something disrespectful. Pause. Someone sends you an angry message. Don't answer instantly. Someone tries to embarrass you. Look at them calmly. You do not owe every provocation an immediate response. Sometimes your first reaction comes from wounded pride. Your second response comes from wisdom. Give wisdom enough time to arrive. Ask yourself, will what I'm about to say improve this situation? If not, silence may be stronger. And remember, silence is not always surrender. Sometimes silence means, I refuse to let your chaos decide my behavior. This does not excuse harmful behavior, but understanding human nature prevents unnecessary hatred. People who constantly criticize others may be deeply dissatisfied with themselves. People obsessed with controlling others may feel powerless internally. People who constantly seek conflict may have never learned how to live without it. People who insult you may be trying to transfer their discomfort into you, and if you accept it, their burden becomes yours. Marcus Aurelius tried to understand why people behaved badly rather than simply hating them for it. Because ignorance is often behind cruelty. Fear is often behind arrogance. Insecurity is often behind contempt. Again, understanding does not mean tolerating everything. Compassion and boundaries can exist together. You can understand someone's pain and still refuse to become their punching bag. You can forgive someone and still decide they no longer deserve access to you. You can wish someone well from a distance. Stoicism is not about becoming passive. It is about becoming deliberate. There are arguments you can win and still lose your peace. Remember that. Some people are not speaking with you to discover the truth. They're speaking to dominate, to provoke, to prove themselves right, to pull you into endless explanations. And if you believe every misunderstanding must be corrected, you become trapped. You explain. They twist your explanation, so you explain the explanation. Then they misunderstand that too. Hours later, you're emotionally exhausted and nothing has changed. The Stoic recognizes when conversation is no longer productive. You can say what needs to be said clearly, once, calmly, then stop. You do not need the final word. You do not need everyone to admit you were right. You do not need to win every courtroom that exists inside another person's mind. Sometimes peace begins when you stop defending yourself before people who have already decided their verdict. Let them think what they think. Time reveals more than arguments ever will. Being Stoic does not mean allowing everyone unlimited access to you. This is often misunderstood. Calmness does not mean tolerance without limits. Patience does not mean becoming someone's permanent target. You can remain composed while saying no. You can remain respectful while leaving. You can remain compassionate while reducing contact. You can remain calm while refusing disrespect. A boundary does not require hatred. Sometimes the most mature response to a difficult person is simply less access, less conversation, less explanation, less emotional investment, less opportunity to disturb your mind. You don't have to dramatically announce your distance. You don't need a speech. You simply adjust your behavior, quietly, and move forward. Because protecting your peace does not always require confrontation. Sometimes it requires distance. This question may be uncomfortable, but it matters. Why does this particular person disturb you so deeply? Why do their words remain in your mind hours after the conversation ends? Why are you replaying what they said while they may already have forgotten it? Sometimes difficult people reveal where we are still emotionally dependent. Perhaps you desperately want their approval. Perhaps you need them to acknowledge that you're right. Perhaps your ego cannot tolerate being misunderstood. Perhaps their criticism touches an insecurity you haven't confronted. This is where difficult people can unexpectedly become teachers, not because they are wise, but because your reaction reveals something about yourself. Every person who provokes you shows you where your self-control still needs strengthening. So instead of asking only, "Why are they like this?" ask, "Why does this affect me so much?" That question returns your attention to the only person you can truly change, yourself. The argument ended 3 hours ago, but you're still having it in your head. You're imagining what you should have said. You're creating better responses. You're predicting tomorrow's confrontation. Meanwhile, the difficult person is nowhere near you, yet they are sitting inside your mind. This is how we give people power long after they leave the room. Physical distance means nothing if you continue carrying them mentally. The Stoic learns to end the interaction twice, once in the world, and once in the mind. When the moment is finished, let it finish. Take whatever lesson is useful, then release the rest. Your evening does not belong to the coworker who irritated you this morning. Your sleep does not belong to the person who criticized you. Your weekend does not belong to someone's rude comment. Your mind is your home. Be careful who you allow to live there without paying rent. Anyone can be peaceful around peaceful people. Anyone can appear patient when nothing tests them. Anyone can speak about self-control when nobody is provoking them. The test comes when someone stands before you and gives you every reason to abandon your principles. That is where philosophy becomes practice. The difficult coworker, the disrespectful relative, the arrogant stranger, the manipulative friend. They are tests. Not necessarily tests sent by fate specifically for you, but opportunities to discover whether your principles survive contact with reality. Marcus Aurelius did not practice philosophy only in quiet rooms. He practiced it while ruling an empire. Surrounded by pressure, conflict, betrayal, war, illness, loss, and difficult human beings. Your life may look different, but the challenge remains the same. Can you govern yourself? Because that is the kingdom Stoicism asks you to rule, not other people, yourself. So the next time someone tries your patience, remember, you don't control their character. You control whether their character changes yours. You don't control their words. You control how much authority those words receive inside your mind. You don't control whether they misunderstand you. You control whether you sacrifice your peace trying to force understanding. You don't control whether they become better. You control whether you do. And perhaps this is the deepest Stoic response to difficult people. Do not make their behavior the center of your life. Let them be difficult. Let them complain. Let them misunderstand. Let them seek conflict. Let them reveal who they are. And you? Remain responsible for who you are, because your peace was never supposed to depend on everyone around you behaving correctly. Your strength is not proven by your ability to control difficult people. It is proven by your ability to stand in their presence without allowing them to control you. And when you finally understand this, difficult people stop feeling like masters of your emotions. They become something else. Practice. Practice in patience. Practice in boundaries. Practice in self-respect. Practice in discipline. Practice in remembering what belongs to you and what does not. So tomorrow, when you meet someone difficult, don't ask, "How do I change this person?" Ask, "Who will I choose to be in their presence?" Because that choice is yours, and no difficult person can take it from you. There will be moments when your calmness is misunderstood. Some people will think that because you did not react, you were afraid. Because you did not argue, you had nothing to say. Because you walked away, you lost. Because you remained silent, they won. Let them think so. One of the hardest forms of self-control is allowing another person to misunderstand your strength. The ego wants recognition. It wants the other person to know, "I could have destroyed you with my words. I could have embarrassed you. I could have fought back." But why must they know? Strength does not become weaker because someone fails to recognize it. A mountain does not become smaller because someone standing far away thinks it is small. Neither does your character. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that his responsibility was not to appear virtuous. It was to be virtuous. There is an enormous difference. When you need people to recognize your strength, you are still dependent upon their judgment. But when you know yourself, you no longer need to demonstrate yourself in every conflict. You can walk away while someone thinks they won. You can remain silent while someone thinks they silenced you. You can refuse an argument while someone celebrates an imaginary victory. And you can continue your life completely untouched by their interpretation. That is emotional independence. The need to prove yourself creates unnecessary battles. The person who knows their strength does not need to display it constantly. Remember this when someone tries to provoke you. You do not have to show them what you are capable of. Sometimes the greatest display of power is restraint. Think carefully about this. Someone walks into the room in a bad mood. 10 minutes later, you're in a bad mood too. Someone speaks aggressively. You become aggressive. Someone ignores you. Your entire day changes. Someone criticizes you. You spend hours questioning yourself. What happened? Without realizing it, you handed them control of your internal state. They moved, and you moved with them. Like a puppet attached to invisible strings. The Stoic tries to cut those strings, not by becoming emotionless, but by becoming aware. Someone else's anger does not require your anger. Someone else's anxiety does not require your anxiety. Someone else's negativity does not require your participation. You can stand beside a storm without becoming the storm. This is difficult because human emotions are contagious. When someone raises their voice, your body naturally prepares itself. Your heart beats faster. Your muscles tighten. Your mind begins searching for a response. And in that moment, you must remember their emotion belongs to them. You don't have to pick it up. Imagine someone placing a burning coal in front of you. Would you grab it simply because they offered it? Of course not. Yet we do this emotionally every day. Someone offers anger. We take it. Someone offers resentment. We take it. Someone offers drama. We take it. Then we complain that our hands are burning. Sometimes peace is simply learning what not to pick up. When someone hurts you, something ancient awakens inside you, the desire for balance. They made me suffer. They should suffer too. You imagine ignoring them, embarrassing them, becoming successful so they regret losing you. Perhaps you imagine the day they return apologizing, and you finally get to say, "Now you understand." But notice what has happened. Your life is still revolving around them. Even your success has become a message intended for someone else. This is not freedom. The Stoic seeks something greater than revenge, indifference to revenge. Not, "I hope they suffer," but, "Their fate is no longer my concern." That is much more powerful, because revenge keeps a relationship alive psychologically. You are still connected through resentment, still thinking about them, still imagining their reaction, still waiting for justice to arrive in exactly the form you desire. But what if it never does? Will you remain angry forever? Marcus Aurelius understood that another person's wrongdoing belonged to their character. Your response belonged to yours. Let consequences teach them if consequences come. Let life correct them if life does. You do not need to become the executioner of everyone who disappoints you. Your task is simpler. Protect your character. Protect your direction. Continue forward. Sometimes the greatest consequence you can give someone is simply removing yourself from the cycle. No revenge, no dramatic farewell, no campaign against them, just absence and peace. This distinction can save relationships. Sometimes someone is not a difficult person. They're simply having a difficult day. Perhaps they're exhausted. Perhaps they're afraid. Perhaps something happened that you know nothing about. Perhaps they spoke badly once and immediately regretted it. If you define someone permanently by their worst moment, you may become unfair yourself. The Stoic tries to judge carefully. Look for patterns. One rude comment is a moment. Repeated disrespect is a pattern. One emotional reaction is human. Constant manipulation is a pattern. One forgotten promise may be a mistake. Repeated broken promises reveal something deeper. Wisdom requires observation. Do not condemn too quickly, but do not ignore patterns because you desperately want someone to be different. See people accurately. Give grace where grace is deserved. Set boundaries where boundaries are necessary, and have enough wisdom to know the difference. This may be uncomfortable, but Stoicism was never designed merely to criticize everyone else. Its purpose was self-examination. It is easy to watch a video about difficult people and immediately think of 5 names: your coworker, your relative, your ex, your neighbor, your friend. But Marcus Aurelius constantly examined himself, so perhaps we should do the same. Ask yourself, have I ever been stubborn? Have I ever misunderstood someone's intentions? Have I ever spoken harshly because I was tired? Have I ever expected people to read my mind? Have I ever refused to apologize because of pride? Have I ever criticized someone unfairly? Have I ever made another person's day more difficult? Of course, we all have. This realization produces humility. You stop dividing humanity into 2 groups: good people like me and difficult people like them. Human beings are complicated, sometimes patient, sometimes selfish, sometimes wise, sometimes foolish, including you. Remembering your own imperfections makes it easier to respond to the imperfections of others without immediately becoming consumed by hatred. This doesn't mean tolerating abuse. It means remembering that you too are still learning how to be human. Many arguments are not about truth, they're about ego. Someone interrupts you. How dare they? Someone doesn't acknowledge your contribution. They don't respect me. Someone disagrees with you publicly. They're trying to embarrass me. Maybe, but maybe not. The ego interprets everything personally. It constantly asks, what does this say about me? The Stoic asks, does this actually matter? That question can eliminate half the conflicts in your life. Will this matter next week? Next year? 5 years from now? If not, perhaps it doesn't deserve 5 hours of your emotional energy today. Not every comment deserves analysis. Not every slight deserves confrontation. Not every disagreement deserves a response. Not every person deserves access to your emotions. Choose your battles carefully. Your attention is part of your life. Every minute spent obsessing over someone else's behavior is a minute you cannot recover. It is easy to speak about patience when everyone agrees with you. Easy to speak about emotional control when nobody insults you. Easy to speak about forgiveness when nobody has betrayed you. Easy to speak about boundaries when nobody you love is crossing them. but philosophy becomes real when life tests it. This is why difficult people can become unexpected training. The rude person trains your patience. The manipulative person trains your boundaries. The arrogant person trains your humility. The critic trains your emotional independence. The dishonest person trains your discernment. The person who misunderstands you trains your ability to stop over-explaining. Suddenly, instead of thinking, "Why must I deal with this?" you begin thinking, "What is this situation giving me an opportunity to practice?" That shift changes everything. Because now the difficult person is no longer simply an obstacle. They are resistance. And resistance strengthens whatever works against it. A muscle grows because it meets resistance. Character often does too. You cannot develop patience in a world where nobody tests it. You cannot develop courage in a world without fear. You cannot develop emotional discipline in a world where everyone treats you exactly as you wish. The obstacle becomes training. Pain can teach the wrong lesson. One person betrays you. You stop trusting everyone. One person uses your kindness. You stop being kind. One person lies to you. You begin assuming everyone is dishonest. One person breaks your heart. You build walls so high that even good people cannot reach you. Be careful. The person who hurt you should not be allowed to determine how you treat people who haven't. Learn the lesson, but don't become bitter. Wisdom says, "I will pay attention next time." Bitterness says, "Everyone is the same." They are not. Stoicism does not ask you to become cold. It asks you to become discerning. Keep your heart, add wisdom. Keep your kindness, add boundaries. Keep your ability to trust, add observation. You don't need to become cruel to survive cruel people. There comes a point when enough is enough. You've communicated, you've been patient, you've tried to understand. You've examined your own behavior, you've given chances, and nothing changes. At that point, Stoicism does not require you to remain in unnecessary chaos. There are doors you can close without hatred. There are relationships you can release without revenge. There are conversations you can stop having. There are people you can love from a distance. And perhaps the hardest part, you may never receive the apology. They may never understand why you left. They may tell a completely different version of the story. They may even make you the villain. And you must decide, is your peace dependent upon correcting their version? Because if it is, you may remain trapped forever. Sometimes closure does not come from being understood. It comes from understanding yourself clearly enough to move forward. You know what happened. You know what you tolerated. You know why you made your decision. Let that be enough. This is the deeper goal. Not creating a life where difficult people disappear. That life does not exist. There will always be someone impatient, someone jealous, someone arrogant, someone unreasonable, someone who doesn't understand you, someone who doesn't like you, someone who believes something about you that isn't true. You cannot eliminate all of them, but you can become increasingly difficult to disturb. Not numb, not cold, not detached from humanity, grounded. You hear criticism without collapsing. You experience disrespect without losing control. You encounter arrogance without needing to compete. You face misunderstanding without explaining yourself endlessly. You set boundaries without hatred. You walk away without revenge. You forgive without reopening doors that should remain closed. And slowly, something changes. The world remains unpredictable, but your mind becomes steadier. And perhaps this is what Marcus Aurelius was trying to remind himself through all those private reflections. The world does not need to cooperate with you for you to live well. People do not need to behave perfectly for you to maintain your character. Your peace cannot be built upon the promise that nobody will ever disappoint you. It must be built somewhere deeper, inside your own principles, inside your own discipline, inside your understanding of what you control and what you do not. So when someone difficult enters your life, remember, you have a choice. You can descend into their chaos, or you can remain where you are. You can absorb their anger or observe it. You can spend your days trying to change them, or spend your energy mastering yourself. You can seek revenge or seek freedom, and every time you choose self-control over reaction, clarity over ego, boundaries over resentment, and peace over unnecessary conflict, you become a little harder for the world to disturb. Not because the world became easier, but because you became wiser. And perhaps that is one of the quietest forms of strength a person can possess, to stand among difficult people and still remain yourself.